This is Bobby Limpy from Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to BBQ Central.
Yay! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening, and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling, originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you right here on your Tuesday evening for your Live Fire Fun and Frivolity Show. That's what we're calling it, the Live Fire Fun and Frivolity Show. As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, T-shirts are in the making. They will be very expensive. They will be very unique collector's items, if you will, the Fun and Frivolity Show T-shirts. So be on the lookout for those. If you want to jump in on the show this evening, love to have you. Here's how you do that.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter coming up in about 12 to 13 minutes from now. It's the second Tuesday of the month, which, you know, if you're a fan of the show, brings a visit from the creator of AmazingRibs.com, Meathead. However, if you joined me last week during the first Tuesday of the month, you would know that October is special because I am taking my show regulars or recurring guests or whatever you want to call them and doing what I'm terming the origin stories of all of them. So, for instance, last week, if you're just new to the show, you're just finding it here on the 13th of October, I had a origin story in the first hour last week with Malcolm Reed from How to Barbecue Right. And in the second hour, I had one with Sam, the cooking guy, who's my second hour regular Tuesday guest in the on the first Tuesday of the month. That was really convoluted as I was saying it out loud. And the concept or the idea here is, I would say on the whole, if you're somewhat knowledgeable about the industry, you can find some rudimentary information. Meathead's got a really big bio on AmazingRibs.com that he wrote. I don't think anybody else on the show, maybe Steven Reichlin does, but nobody has quite the extensive bio like Meathead has on AmazingRibs.com. So I wanted to put together a piece that is within this time frame that we're in now, that you can go back and reference, or perhaps I can go back and reference them for you if you shoot me an email and go, hey, I would really love to know more about Malcolm or Steven Reichlin or Robin Lindars or the embedded correspondence. Well, now I will have a point in time that I can go back and say, hey, this is all current. We did a deep dive back from when they were born all the way to present day, and here's what you have now 10 or 15 years from now. Obviously, that could be a little bit dated, and we might have to do some more or renew some origin stories on the folks that are still alive. So we'll hold that off for now. But really looking forward to doing the second week here in October of Origin Stories with Meathead. So format is changing a little bit. I mean, we're still doing the segments. It's still going to be Meathead, but I am also allotting for time into the second hour because we are literally starting from the beginning. So I don't want to rush through it. That's why we want we fit Malcolm in an hour because he was fairly succinct in how he was answering the questions. It just fit within the hour. Sam went an hour and a half. I'm not putting any real-time constraints on Meathead, so we're going to do first hour, and then if it breaches over into the second hour or most of the second hour, that's fine. I do have a 35 past the second hour guest for the bullpen segment. His name is AJ Lujan. He is a competitive steak cook. He is 15 years old. If the last name sounds familiar, it's because he is a son to the Anthony Lujan, who was a co-host of the Pitmasters podcast. So looking forward to doing a special show yet again, Meathead's origin story, which I've been looking forward to ever since I came up with this concept. Don't forget, you can follow me socially at the following platforms: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat. All of those can be found at BBQ Central Show. You can get me on Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. Also, back on YouTube Live this week. I got that figured out. /RD Rempe is the place to find me on YouTube. And oh, by the way, there is a super chat available. So please go ahead and super chat me $200, $300, $500. I'll take all the money. No problem there. So if you're wondering what those little things, something to do with stickers, something to do with super chat, I have no idea exactly what that entails, but I'm wondering if you super chat me, that basically means you have to pay some kind of money, and then your particular post will stay up for a corresponding period of time. I think $500 gets you 5 hours or something, ridiculous. So I'm just wondering if it actually shows up on the social media feed that I have where I'm watching your interaction with each other here through YouTube and Facebook, Twitch as well. So we'll see how that works out. First off, ton of great feedback on the first set of origin stories I did last week with Malcolm and Sam. The common theme was that while you already knew some stuff about each of these guys, there was plenty that you didn't know about them. And getting to know a little bit more intimate details for these guys gives you a deeper appreciation for them, gets you more connected to them, bigger fans of them. Same for me, by the way. So glad you're liking that first set. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, looking forward to getting down with Meathead in about 5 minutes from now. Also, I got a lot of this reaction as well that I wasn't anticipating, and I'm paraphrasing. This doesn't have anything to do with the origin stories per se. It said something along the lines of, Greg, you're doing a month of origin stories on regular guests. This might be the perfect time to give us the origin stories on why you hate Jack Nicklaus and Kent Osormo. And as the 15th and the 20th email that was roughly referencing the same type of idea, I thought to myself, is there an origin story for my hatred of the Golden Bear and one of the most successful horse jockeys ever. I mean, I'm not talking Mike Smith successful, but successful enough for me to know who he is in a lineup. And I thought, how long could that story really be? It would go along this kind of a timeline. Jack Nicklaus is born. At some point in his life, becomes a raging asshole. And then I meet him, and he continues to be a raging asshole. The end. That's his origin story right there. Jack Nicklaus. Now, Kent DeSormo's might be a little different. Very similar, but perhaps a little different in this way. Kent DeSormo is born, probably illegitimately. Kent DeSormo, at some point after being born, also becomes a raging asshole. However, also becomes a belligerent drunk. Then I meet him. He still is a incredible asshole. And I would have to believe a belligerent drunk. And then the story goes to the end. The end. That's Kent DeSormo's origin story. That's it. I don't know what else. Honestly, there is more of a backstory to Jack Nicklaus. And I just don't want to get into it with you guys about what. I don't want to ruin the facade of what a great guy Jack Nicklaus is when he's a golden asshole is what he is. I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but I'm telling you I have firsthand experience on what a hole this guy is. Someday I'll probably share it. Maybe if we drop out of a segment or something doesn't go right and I need to fill time, because I will need definitely at least a whole long segment to fill you in on the whole backstory of the Golden Bear. Just don't think he's that great of a guy. And the thing that really pisses me off, I didn't even really know who the hell he was. I wasn't even his fan. That's all I'm saying for now. Wait until the segment pops. We got Meathead coming up out of the break for his origin story. I'll talk to you quickly about Southside Market Barbecue. Established in 1882, Southside Market, the oldest barbecue joint in Texas. They've been owned and operated by the same family for 3 generations, offering premium Central Texas barbecue products, slow smoked over real wood, shipping, distributing, manufacturing sausages for companies across the U.S., from food trucks to multi-chain restaurants. Southside sausage can be on your menu as well. All meats processed in the on-site USDA-inspected facility. A trusted partner with a focus on quality and authenticity. Wholesale options are available, shipping nationwide via FedEx. You can also find them through food service distribution channels like Sysco, U.S. Foods, and Martin Foods. Co-packaging capable from research and development to package completion. They can follow your specific recipe or help you develop something brand new from scratch. Private label opportunities are also available. You might want to look into those if you already have a place going and you want successful sausage, but you just want to put your name on it. You don't want any other backbreaking work that goes into recipe development. That's private label. Visit SouthsideMarket.com for more information on everything. While you're there loading up the cart and you want to save 10%, use promo code BBQ Central at checkout. That's BBQ CENTRAL, all one word and lowercase, BBQ Central. And that gets you 10% off your entire order when you're at SouthsideMarket.com. Sausage slammers, check. Jalapeno cheddar sausage, check. Hot guts, yes. Sausage slammers, did I already say that? They're one of my favorites. The onion sausage, an incredible sausage array, number one. And then the meats, briskets and ribs, all shipping to you right now. This time of coronavirus, you need some really good Southside Market and barbecue because you don't want to go eat in Elgin or Austin or Bastrop. That's fine. They'll ship it to you. And you can save 10% when you use promo code BBQ Central. Meathead's origin story. Oh my. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Brought Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher's Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, and seasonings, barbecue sauces, grilling oils. All the Butcher Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit, as well as backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your neighborhood. And visit butcherbbq.com to stock up now. Always trust your butcher, right? We're always trusting our butcher on this show. Long-time sponsor. We certainly appreciate it. All right, because he was giving me the what for last time, here we go. Joining me for his traditional second Tuesday of the month spot, it is Meathead right here. Hey, Meathead. What do we think?
Hello, Greg, and hello, Centralite.
All right. Got your...
you got me nervous over tonight, Greg. I got to tell you.
Oh, what are you talking about? I mean, you've lived this life, Meathead, so it's not like we're going to be poking anything out of the ordinary, right?
Yeah.
Are you growing your hair back?
It's a little bit. I just don't. I did the buzz cut, and now
Yes.
I haven't done it since. So
All
it's.
right.
I'll probably do a buzz cut again.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. I get it. Trust me. I'm fighting with my hair every single day.
When I was in
Every
high school, I had a flat top. Put wax in it.
Oh, yes, the wax.
Oh yeah, I was a football player and a swimmer.
Hold on.
You want
Wait
back
a second. We're going. Let's dive headlong into this, and I have allotted for a bunch of extra time just in case, because I don't want to rush through it. I want to get through these things properly and as organically as we can. So let's roll it all the way to the back. Here he is, Meathead. When were you born?
Oh, it was a dark and stormy night, Greg.
Always.
1949.
All right.
A great vintage in Bordeaux and Burgundy.
Really?
4 years after the war. My dad came home from the war. He flew B-29s.
Wow.
Met my mom. He was lifeguarding, and she was hanging around the beach, Jones Beach on Long Island. And they married at the Waldorf Astoria, I think, in New York. I'm looking. I got a picture of the two of them at their wedding right there. Dad wearing a top hat. Mom, beautiful. Dad's gone now. Mom's still with us, 95 years old.
Wow, I was talking with Sam, the cooking guy, last week. His dad has passed away as well, and but his mom's still around, 96 years old. So, we got some hangers-oners there for you guys.
They could probably arm wrestle. Mine is a pistol, I'll tell you.
Through the course, Meathead, did your parents stay together, or how did that work out?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. She was by his side when he died. It was a good marriage, as near as I could tell. I like everybody else. There was occasional fights, but usually the fights were with me.
So were you only child, or were there other siblings in the house?
No, I got a kid sister. She's 5 years younger. Lives in Pompano Beach, not far from Mom. We're both University of Florida Gators.
How would you characterize your relationship with your parents? We don't have to, just as a kid. We'll get into the education and stuff here in a moment, and how that is, how that relationship grew.
I was always encouraged at the dinner table to participate in conversation, like an adult. I was never shut down, but it was fairly strict. I had some pretty strict regulations around me. One of the coolest things was, as I look back, when I got in really bad trouble, Dad wouldn't whoop me. I had a pair of boxing gloves, and so did he. And my bed was in the corner, and we'd both lace up, and at least I could swing back. I could fight back, but of course he beat the snot out of me. And that was how he whooped me.
Do you think he was full tilt? Was he going full tilt at you, or just trying to give you a lesson?
I doubt it. It was just, but get ready for a beating, son. Yeah.
Meathead joining us here on the show. All right, so how do you recall, or prior to starting school, how would you characterize yourself as a kid? Were you curious? Were you into stuff? Like, what were you as a youth?
Yeah, I was. I lived the first 9 years on Long Island, but the really formative years were in Florida. It was rural then. It was not heavily populated. I spent a lot of time down by the creek fishing for minnows and pollywogs and hunting snakes and building forts with my buddies. And there was a recreation center. I was a swimmer. I swam a lot. And I actually competed at a very high level on AAU. Spent a lot of time down at the pool. And played high school football. Actually, now, God, that brings back a memory. I was part of the Ringling Redskins, and I don't know if anybody keeps these records, but I'm pretty sure the Redskins were like the first Pee-wee football league in the country. We were like 10 or 12 years old or something. We had full pads, and Ringling named after the Ringling brothers. This was Sarasota, Florida, which is where the Ringling Mansion is. The Ringling brother, John Ringling, lived there.
I think there's a university out there in Sarasota now too, isn't there?
Yes, right. And so there was. So I was, in a sport. I had a flat stomach.
How do you go from Long Island to Florida? Was there a job move or something?
Yeah, Dad was a food technology major. Bloodline.
Yeah.
At NYU. Came back from the war. Got into college on the GI Bill. He and his cousin, my Uncle Buddy, both went to NYU in food technology. They opened up a butcher shop, Bloodlines, on Long Island, and it wasn't successful. He got a job with USDA. He was a inspector. They first sent him to the coast of Maine, a little town called Bayside near Belfast on Penobscot Bay. I'll never forget, I was 9, 10 years old. It was the most idyllic summer you could imagine. Cold water, but swimming, seafood. And I got a job working in the kitchen at the Maine Sailing School. This was a sailing school for kids. They would come up from the cities and spend the summer on and Bayside and learn how to sail. And I got sailing lessons in exchange for working in the kitchen. And I guess that was my first real exposure to cooking and to food. Although Dad was a great lover of barbecue and grilling, he had something akin to a Weber kettle, and his specialty was flank steak. And I fell in love with it, and he'd let me hang out by the grill with him. And that was probably where I got the first injection of grilling and barbecue. Now, I hope my mom's not listening, but he might have let me have a little sip of beer along the way, and that might have influenced me.
Yeah.
But those flank steaks, Mom was a good cook. She's nothing fantastic. But Dad's flank steaks, oh my, I love those things. Well, anybody out there knows. Flank steaks, if you cook it right, you get that hard crust, you get that soft, tender center. It's a little chewy, but if you cut it right, it's so beefy. And I just fell in love with it, man. I loved grilling.
So that's probably where some of the live fire foundations are laid as youth.
Oh, yeah. That was first.
Yeah. What do you recall from a primary education years? Like, was school something that's easy for you as you're getting through elementary, middle school, high school? What kind of a student are you, and what are you into?
I was a pretty good student. We moved around a little bit as Dad was with the government. Blueberry factory shut down after the blueberry season in Maine to inspect blueberry factory and not a blueberry, orange juice factory, Tropicana factory in Bradenton, Florida. Mm-hmm. So we lived in Sarasota, and this was 1959, I think. Moved to Sarasota, and I was a pretty good student. I didn't have to study a lot and got pretty good grades. I enjoyed school. I mean, it was, stimulation.
You had mentioned that you were also a football player and a swimmer. Were you most competitive then at this point, or did you go in and swim or play football at the next level?
I was undersized for a football player, but I loved it, and I just loved throwing my body. In high school, later on, we moved across the state to Merritt Island, which was this was at the start of the space program. Dad left the USDA and took a job with a stock brokerage, and they sent him to Cocoa, Florida in 1960, which I think it was 58 or 59 when the Russians launched Sputnik, and we started the space program right around that time, and with the Vanguard, and all of the engineers, the scientists, the bestest and brightest from Boeing and Northrop and Bell, they all moved into this uninhabited little fishing area, Cocoa Beach, Merritt Island, Melbourne, and what later became Satellite Beach, named after the missile program. And the brand new junior high opened up, or high school, Merritt Island High School. And I was both on the swimming team and the football team.
What was the food scene like for you growing up? Otherwise, you'd mentioned your dad's steak. You said your mom was okay cook. It didn't sound like she was necessarily setting the kitchen on fire in a good way. But were there any were there any secret family recipes or like grandparents that came around or anything like that?
I remember mom's lasagna. But we were in the coast. We were in Florida. I ate seafood. Dad and I were into fishing, and at one point we moved into a house that was right on the intercoastal waterway. So I could walk out my backyard, stand on the seawall, take a piece of kite string and tie a chicken neck to it, throw it out into the water, and in a few minutes I could feel tugging on it and pull it in, and I've had crabs. And I would just, scoop them up in a net, and it was a pain in the ass getting them out of the net, and then throw them up on the lawn, and I could get a dozen of them in an hour easily, and we just boil them up. And Dad always had a boat. As long as I can remember, he had a boat, a little runabout. Eventually, he got a Chris Craft, something we could all sleep in, we'd go out off into the Atlantic, into the Gulf Stream, and fish, and come home. Gosh, I have a picture. I didn't think to bring it up of me holding up mahi mahi, like a 60-pound fish.
Wow.
And those were wonderful. If I stayed on the coast, I'd be fish head, not meathead.
Is the crab illegal to catch like that back then, or no?
I don't think there was anything illegal about it. I mean, this was rural Florida. I don't know if there were, any legal restrictions or anything. Yeah, we'd boil up crabs. They were fantastic. It's probably still legal.
Were you employable back then through high school? Do you have any odd jobs?
Well, here we go. This is the good story. This is through high school and college. I took a job as the lifeguard at the Sheraton Hotel on Cocoa Beach. And very soon after the space program began, the 7 original astronauts, and I can name them all. I knew them all. They all moved down there, and they bought a part of the Sheraton Hotel. They were my bosses. And I would hang out at the Sheraton, at the pool, and they'd come around, hanging around, sniffing around, looking at the pretty girls. Alan Shepard was the hound dog, and Disney is running a remake of the movie The Right Stuff and the book The Right Stuff, and it's been Hollywoodized, but there's a lot of truth, and they show Shepard for what he was. He was constantly chasing women. There was a bar there, and they were just, hey, honey, I'm an astronaut.
Does that work?
Oh my God. did that work. I mean, they owned a hotel, so they had their choice of rooms, and
Oh my.
I don't recall that John Glenn was ever involved. He's got a reputation as a straight arrow and a Bible thumper, and I don't think he was a chaser. But most of the rest of them were. I mean, they were family men. Their spouses moved down there with them eventually, but they were, these were guys they were test pilots, man. I mean, look in 1960, John Kennedy threw down the gauntlet and said, I want to put a man on the moon in 10 years. And they did it. Think about that. They didn't have, these things, this little iPhone here has got more computing power than they put on those spaceships. And they did it. They started with the Redstone rocket and the Mercury capsule and the Atlas Centaur and the Gemini capsule, the Titan 3C, and then finally the Saturn V. I knew them all, and I knew the photographer for the Associated Press turned one of the rooms at the Sheraton into a dark room, and he'd let me come up there and help him develop film. So that was I was always interested in photography, and that was my first exposure to color work. And I mean, can imagine this was exciting stuff, especially for a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid, being around these studs and the space program and all these engineers. These were young, bright, talented people. And that whole area, the Space Coast, they call it now, it just grew up overnight. And think about this. They started with almost nothing, and they put a man on the moon in 10 years. Wow. Just incredible, without any of the computing power that we have today. It was really fun stuff.
No doubt. Sounds like a great time and inspirational to you as well. Were there other jobs, or was there no reason to have any other job than stay at that Sheraton? It sounds like that would be the only place I'd stay.
A lifeguard. I was a good swimmer. I made it to the state meet in Florida. That's not small potatoes. I was a breaststroker, a good breaststroker. I was a mediocre butterflyer, and didn't have all this hair on my chest. And Mary Island High School had a very advanced science program. It was underwritten by the big corporations, and I got into one of the advanced science classes. In fact, my junior year, my science project went all the way to the state fair. I was growing chlorella, which is a type of algae, in fish tanks, and I was working with ways to optimize its growth with the idea that space travel to Mars, they could grow these little algae in tanks and harvest it and make food out of it. And I made cookies, chocolate chip cookies out of them. And that was one of my first recipes ever, chlorella chocolate chip cookies. They were awful. But I won an award from NASA for aerospace science research in high school. But thank God they never tasted my cookies.
Yeah, I was going to say, did somebody have to taste that at some point in order to give you an award?
You would think, but I had a great poster, and as you may know, I had the gift of gab, and I could sell the concept.
So what was going to be the use to eat?
Yeah, well, the whole idea was, if we're going into space, we got to go to Mars. We got to go far, and you can't put pack sandwiches in a so you got to grow food. And so this was an idea of chlorella, the algae. They reproduce fast. They really grow fast. And so the idea, if we can use this little microbe, not a microbe, small plant for food, that'd be cool. I don't think that's ever got a future.
Yeah, that's all right. You never know. When the chips are down, we can always go back to growing chlorella or whatever.
Chlorella, yeah.
Yeah, all right. All right, Meathead. So stand by here just for a second. We'll come back. We'll get into the college and early job years and take it from there. You're listening to the origin story of Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. I'll talk to you quickly about Pits and Spits, and then we'll get right back to Meathead. Since 1983, Pits and Spits has been handcrafting smokers and grills in Houston, Texas. Within that time, they have established themselves as one of the premier brands in high-quality offset smokers and more recently pellet cookers. Pitts and Spitz sets itself apart by using heavy 7 and 10 gauge steel in every cooker, fully welded construction that you can feel when you use the unit, and 304 stainless steel roll-top lids and front shelves on every single cooker. Why does it matter? Well, by using higher quality materials, Pitts and Spitz smokers reach and maintain temperatures, allowing you to worry more about the meat than the heat. And by providing fully welded smokers, you don't have to worry about grease or smoke leaking out of the barrel or about the grill rattling apart as you move it through the backyard. And by using 304 stainless, you're getting an heirloom quality product that you'll be able to pass down to your kids. Now, where some companies are focusing on the low-cost provider, Pitts and Spitz focuses on craftsmanship using quality materials. Are there cheaper ways to make these things? Sure. But they don't like making tack welds, cheap stainless, or electronics that you can't trust. Having in-house manufacturing gives them complete control of the design and standards. That's not something you're going to find from something that's brought in overseas. Their steel suppliers supply materials to be used in some of the harshest environments around, so you know they're going to perform wherever you live. And they have unimpeded access to their controllers because they're made right here in the USA. Pitts and Spitz has a dealer network across the country, but if there isn't one close to you, go ahead and call Coy at the shop, 844-650-6250. That's 844-650-6250. Whether you're a backyard grill master looking to cook steaks for the family or a competition team looking to do 50 racks of ribs, Pitts and Spitz is a product for you. You can check them out online, Pitts and Spitz, all spelled out. Or you can check them out in the wild across all their social media handles at Pitts and Spitz. We are back with more Meathead. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And this portion brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com. That's COOKIN. Cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. In lieu of purchasing from Cookin' Pellets, you can also do that on Amazon.com. I was keeping an eye out to see if they were on Prime Days, Cookin' Pellets, but they were not on Prime Days. Maybe tomorrow. We'll have to check for tomorrow. All right, we are rejoined by Meathead from AmazingRibs.com as we were getting through the high school, learning about how he was best buddies with the original 7 astronauts out there in Florida as he was lifeguarding them. So we get into college, Meathead. Florida Gator, tried and true, as you said. Very proud of that. What did you go in for? And perhaps the question of generations is, what did you go into study and what did you end up graduating with? Because there does seem to be quite a change that happens within those 4+ years.
Yeah, there's a story behind that too. Yeah. Well, I was going to be a doctor. I had good grades, and I thought I'd be a doctor. And,
any specific doctor, like a anesthesiologist, cardiovascular, general doctor?
Yeah, my parents says, "I'll go be a doctor." So, I went right out of high school. I graduated in May or June, and registered right away. Went to Gainesville in the June and started the summer semester. I couldn't wait and got straight A's summer semester, first semester in college. This was easy. I thought, holy cow, I'm going to breeze through college just like I did high school. Don't have to study or anything. And then pledged fraternity. You know what's coming, don't you?
Oh, boy.
I pledged fraternity in the fall. I'm a Phi Gamma Delta, Fiji. And started partying. This was the 60s. You know, the old joke about if you remember the 60s, you weren't there.
Yeah.
But he was smoking dope, and we were drinking, and we were partying, and by end of spring semester, I had flunked out. I went from, I got straight A's my first semester. I was elected president of the Freshman Honorary Society, which was an academic honorary. And I probably the first president of Phi Eta Sigma, I think it was called, that ever flunked out. And I was facing the draft. I was number 20 in the draft. Back in those days, we were at war in Vietnam, and they were drafting young men, and to draft, to decide who to draft, they threw your birth date in a hat and pulled it out, and you were assigned a number. And if you were a high number, or a low number rather, you were dead meat. You were going to Vietnam. And I was number 20. I think anything under 200 was going to be drafted.
Yeah.
But University of Florida was a land grant college, which meant federal government granted the land, and so everybody there was required to take ROTC for 2 years. So I was in ROTC, and I kind of liked it. I liked the military aspects, and I liked the idea of a good, strong army, and I liked firing weapons, and I liked they would drop us off in swamps with compasses and tell us to find our way out. And this was fun stuff, and I decided I'd just stick it out, and so after the 2 years, I continued. They paid me, which was nice.
Right.
That was beer money. But I faced the prospect of, when I graduated, I was going to be commissioned as second lieutenant. By then, the war was starting to wind down in the late 60s and early 70s, and I had some real misgivings about what the heck are we doing over there. Muhammad Ali said it. I got nothing against no Vietnamese. And here I am wearing a uniform. And so I started a routine of dropping in and out of college. I'd drop out, and then I was out of ROTC, and then I'd go back, and then I was in and I loved it. I went to summer camp. I fought the Fayette Kong, they call them, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, at our ROTC summer camp. We spent summer camp, the college kids fighting against the 82nd Airborne. Oh my God. Eventually the draft ended, and I didn't end up going into the military, and it's probably just as well. There were a lot of ROTC graduates who came in as second lieutenants and were disrespected by the foot soldiers, the GIs, the kids who were drafted. A lot of inner city kids, and oh golly, sometimes they got shot, and oftentimes the bullet hole was in the back.
Wow.
And that probably would have been my fate. College kid with a degree and a lieutenant leading men who knew war far better than I would have.
So you're getting through college. How long does it end up taking you if you're joining and dropping and joining and dropping?
Well, I switched from pre-med to journalism, and that was a good move because I love to write, and I did great. I mean, I was an editor at the campus paper, the Florida Alligator. We won the Hearst Award for the nation's best college daily. I was the sports editor at one time. I went out for the University of Florida football team in spring to write. At the time, there was a best-selling novel called Paper Tiger, and it was written by George Plimpton. And he was a very good author, but his specialty was he would not just write about something, he would do it. And so, he did skydiving, and he went out for the Detroit Tigers. Paper Lion was the book, Paper Lion. And he went out for the Detroit Lions. Oof. And he suited up and practiced with him and got his ass creamed. So I figured, hey, I'm going to be Paper Gator. And I did the same thing. And they gave me the locker next to Jack Youngblood. Now, I don't know if anybody knows that name. But Jack Youngblood was All-American, made it All-Pro with the LA Rams. He's in the Hall of Fame. Jack was 6'7". I was 5'9". Closer to 5'8". And I had played linebacker in high school, but way too small for that in college. So they put me in the as a safety. And I was there just to write the story, to learn about what it felt like to be a college football player. In spring training, they put me at safety, and we go out, and when we stand around the defensive huddles, Youngblood rests his elbow on my helmet, But he was
He's
my
a foot
protector,
taller than you, for crying out loud.
Yeah, easily. In the orange and blue game, the spring game, I'm sitting on the bench with a clipboard taking notes right from my article, because this is the end, the end of the article, the end of spring training, and I got to wrap this thing up. And the last play of the game, coach turns around and yells, "Paper Gator, get your helmet on." Now, this was not in the program. And they send me out on the field. It took me a minute to find my helmet. They send me out on the field, and I get to the huddle, and there's two safeties in the huddle, and I'm supposed to be a safety. No, you're middle linebacker, Mike linebacker, middle linebacker. What? I've been practicing in safety. Just get down there, man. All right, well, I know how to play linebacker. I line up. And, they used to play 5-3, but now they were in a 4-3. Well, 5-3, there's a man on the center. 4-3, there's nobody on the center, and the center has a clear shot at the middle linebacker. and the ball is snapped, and I realized, what's happening. There's a target on my chest. So I dove for the ground, just, like a rabbit heading for a rabbit hole. And the center tripped over me. The fullback tripped over the center, and the running back got his leg hooked around the fullback. And there's a picture of it. There's actually a photograph of this that ran in the Associated Press, because I wrote this story and it was picked up by AP. And I tackled the running back. Essentially, he tripped. But my record in the swamp is 1 play, 1 tackle, 1 yard loss.
Wow.
Match that.
No doubt. Get that guy into the College Football Hall of Fame immediately. Plus, he can write, for crying out loud. Probably 85% of those guys were reading that and loving every second of it.
I got a lot of flack off of that one.
Oh, I bet. All right, so as you're winding college down, are you graduating with a journalism degree, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually what happened is because of ROTC, the draft, and a million other things, I got really into photography. And the University of Florida had a really great photography department headed by a man named Jerry Uelsman. And if you're at all interested in photography, if you don't know the name, go Google him, Uelsmann. His work is just marvelous. And Jerry took me under his wing, and I remember sitting on the lawn with him one day looking at a portfolio of Edward Weston photographs that he had gotten because he traded a portfolio of his photographs. And so I got really into photography, and I got a one-man show. Actually, it was a two-man show. My best friend and I got a two-man show in this little artsy village on the west coast of Florida, north of St. Petersburg, and Safety Harbor, and pretty little beach town, and had a two-man show there, and we worked for months to make the prints for it, and went there, and it was the beginning of my art career. And it turns out the woman who ran the gallery invited me to her house to see her paintings. Her specialty was large canvases that she painted by taking off her clothes and wiggling around on the canvas with paint. Yeah, I won't go any further than that, but it really did spur my interest in art.
Oh, yeah, it's spurring my interest as we talk about it.
I never made it back to Gainesville. I just got in the car, and as I was heading back to Gainesville, I picked up a couple of hitchhikers. It was in August, and they were going to Detroit, and they were telling me how they were making a lot of money working on the assembly line. And wow, that's a lot of money. And I was pretty much paying my own way in college. I was at ABC Liquors, a big chain of liquor stores. That was a lot of fun. It still is. Yeah, it's huge. Most of the liquor stores have bars attached. And there's a good story here, because this is where the barbecue connection comes in. The liquor store had a bar in the back, and I was the assistant manager of the liquor store. My roommate was the manager. I loved it because I was able to recommend wines to my professors. I got really into wine. My buddies and I were tasting the wines, and I'd start recommending wines to my professors, and then they'd tell me how much they loved it, you know. So I don't know if it ever helped my grades, but I imagined it might.
Couldn't hurt.
But there was this guy who'd come into the bar once a week. Usually I think it was Thursday. And he'd come in with this styrofoam cooler, big cooler. And it was full of ribs wrapped in aluminum foil. And he would sell them to the patrons of the bar. And we let him in, you know. I mean, we didn't give him any grief. And they smelled so good. And I started buying them and bringing them back to the fraternity house, and then later to the dorm, the apartment where I lived. And we were just enthralled. We'd never tasted anything like this. And it was years later, many years later, that I realized this was Sonny, the guy who started Sonny's Barbecue, restaurant chain in Florida.
Really?
He was cooking these ribs in a concrete backyard pit and selling them in bars in Gainesville, Florida. How about that?
Wow.
So Sonny of Sonny's Barbecue was really who got me started. And now I was on a mission. I wanted more of this stuff, and I wanted to know how you make it. And there was a barbecue joint in town called Y.T. Parker's Barbecue, and it was in the African-American section of town where the college kids never went. And I went down in there, and I would taste all his barbecue. And, I kept asking questions, and he'd let me eventually go out back where he had a pit, actual pit dug in the ground. Now, after the city came down on him, he built a concrete block pit. But I could hang out with him and his buddies and drink beer, and they taught me how to cook. And that's where I learned how to barbecue, from Y.T. Parker, big old heavy cigarette smoking black guy. And the place was like it looked like a chicken coop or something. None of the tables were steady. They all wobbled. And you could buy pulled pork sandwiches, and if you could take the sauce hotter than the hottest one he had, he could amp it up. You could name it. And I remember the last one that I ate was Super Saber Jet.
Wow. That sounds hot.
Yeah, they were hot. I couldn't eat them. But I learned how to barbecue in an open pit, logs. And that was really my start down that path. Dad got me started with his flank steaks for grilling, but for low and slow smoked open pit barbecue, this was old style. Central Florida is more a part of Georgia than it is. People think of Florida, they think of Miami, and Miami is a suburb of New York. Gainesville is a suburb of Detroit, of Georgia, rather. So, in any case, winding back, I pick up these two hitchhikers going to Gainesville, and they're going to Detroit. They're making a lot of money up there, and I figured, if you can make that much, I think it was $3.25 an hour. Holy cow, $3.25 an hour on the assembly line. Pack my bags. I had a little Toyota pickup truck with a camper on the back. So I just drove them all the way to Detroit and went to the Dearborn Recreation Center and parked in the parking lot and slept in my camper. Got up in the morning and went into the rec center and showered in the gym. And I lived there for like 3 months in this little pickup truck. Got a job in a liquor store, because when I got there, all of the factories had shut down. I didn't know enough. In those days, all of the automobile factories shut down end of August
for
retool
maintenance
for the new model year.
Right.
The 1971s are done. We got to retool for the 1972s. And so I couldn't get a job in the factory. It was right near the Dearborn plant, too. And I couldn't get a job, so I got a job in a little liquor store. I was really into wine then too, and I helped them create a good selection of wine and beer. And we started a little wine club, and it was very successful.
All right, let me do this, Meathead. I'm going to try and get the clock right here, so then we can head into the second hour and finish out
my God, look
your
at all the
current
time.
life. So stand by just for 1 second, and we'll be right back with Meathead from Amazing Ribs. I'll talk to you quickly about the BBQ Guru, longest-running sponsor of this show. Always believing outdoor cooking should be fun and easy, because it can be, especially with the Monolith BBQ Guru Edition grill and any of the BBQ Guru controllers. Monolith, the world's first temperature-controlled smoker with a built-in power draft fan, meeting smarter control and greater freedom with automatic temperature-control devices. Easily choose your cooking time and temperature. Let the Monolith do the work of a sous chef or a barbecue pitmaster. And with minimal effort, you now have oven-like precision at the grill. You can serve the tastiest, juiciest meals each and every time. And if you already have a BBQ Guru controller, you don't have to get a new one. If you order the Monolith, you just take that controller, hook it up to the power draft fan that's built into it, and away you go. You're off and running. If you don't like ceramic cookers or you want something different, they do have another option. It's called the shotgun cooker. It's more of a cabinet style. Again, huge capacity on this. The burn time with a automatic temperature control device, the insulation that it's in there. I think Bob has said that he's routinely gotten over 24 hours on a single load of charcoal. And again, can accommodate half and full pans. So if you're catering or you're looking to do more than your traditional family amounts, it's something that can absolutely get it done. Again, fully insulated. Give them a call or ask them any questions by visiting the website, bbqguru.com, or as I mentioned, call 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU, and they will make sure you're outfitted with exactly what you need to get you up and running right out of the box. BBQ Guru, longest running sponsor of the show, and we're back with more Meathead to round out the first hour right after this. Stick around.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we are brought to you this time around by Fireboard 2 and Fireboard 2 Drive. You can monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. You can connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth if you have to. Alexa and Google Assistant compatible as well. So if you have one or both, you can hook them up. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. And we have Meathead aboard here. We got like 3 minutes before we run to the top of the hour here, Meathead. So is there anything collegiately that you want to, or first job-wise, you want to close out on, and then we'll transition into those first writing jobs and all that good stuff here in the second hour?
I just, during these breaks, memories flow back. While I was at the Florida Alligator, the campus paper, I went to Daytona and Sebring and photographed and covered the races. Those were the races that were featured. I can't remember the name of the movie. It just came out a year or two ago about all these great sports car racers at Le Mans and Sebring and Daytona. And I watched all of that. Roger Penske, all those guys driving. I got press passes. I was in the pit. It was unbelievable watching those races. And I also went to the Palm Beach Rock Festival, which was sort of a dry run before Woodstock. It was about 2 or 3 weeks before Woodstock, and they were all there. Hendrix, Joplin, and I had backstage pass. I was a writer and a photographer. Just breathtaking moments in history.
All right, we are chatting with Meathead. We're going to run through the second hour, and we will come back, and we will be told a love story, amongst other things. So stick around. And, well, I'm hoping so. I've built up a love story that's going to be happening here at some point. So you can find Meathead, of course, at AmazingRibs.com and the second Tuesday of the month right here on this show. So stick around for the second hour. We will be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners. So listen, Lavernius, shake your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
All right, just like that, we are into the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central show. If you missed the first hour, don't worry, we're recording. Getting Meathead's origin story right here. All right, Meathead, so we are ready to go here for the next segment or so.
You know, this is what happens when you get a 70-year-old man. Next time, get a 20-year-old man.
There's a lot of life. There's a lot of life to be told here.
Yeah, there is. You're forcing me to remember stuff. I have done a lot of shit, you know.
Yes, of course. So when does the writing start, or perhaps do you have like real writing jobs prior to you getting married, or is there
not too much? When I was in college, I wrote for the college paper. The highlight was my Paper Gator series, which was picked up by the Associated Press, and I did some photography, which was picked up by AP. I think one of the other highlights was, I think in spring training baseball, I predicted the winners of both leagues, and I got one league exactly right from top to bottom. That was like incredible. But I had written on the side, poetry and fiction and stuff, but not really doing a lot of writing at the time. But I learned. I mean, I was in journalism school, so I was given assignments, and I did okay. But I ended up on this trip to Detroit and working in a liquor store, and somewhere along the line, my professor, Jerry Ulsman, had a one-man show at the Art Institute of Chicago, which is a brilliant, grand museum, and it was a great milestone in his life. And so I drove from Detroit to Chicago to see it. And I got to Chicago, and I'm sorry to any of you listening in Detroit, but it was like, oh my God, what am I doing in Detroit?
No doubt.
I thought I was going to the big city and earn a living in the automobile factory. And then I saw Chicago, and it was like, oh my God, this gorgeous, beautiful, huge, thriving, artistic, food-oriented, wine, beverage, and I never went back. I take that back. I did. I went back, and I gave my boss like a week's notice, and I was gone. And I got a job in a liquor store in Chicago, and it was part of the Foremost chain, which was a chain. I eventually, within a year, I became the head wine buyer for the chain. And Ruth Ellen Church, who was the wine critic for the Chicago Tribune, she was the first weekly wine critic in the world. And she was also the food editor, and she wrote a number of cookbooks. She retired, and they advertised for a replacement, and I applied, and I got the job as the wine critic of the Chicago Tribune, which was a weekly column, and that was really my first regular writing job, and it was a lot of work. I mean, a weekly column was, much more than I had to, create topics, do research, fact check, and write. A technique I learned that I still use all the time and people praise me for is never assume your reader understands all of the jargon. You have to explain what the Texas crutch is. You have to explain what a Spätlese Riesling is. You just can't say it, And so I always took the time to bring along the novice and became pretty good at it. And the Washington Post hired me as a weekly critic. My wife, we're jumping all around here. I met my wife while I was working in a liquor store in Skokie, Illinois. She was a grad student at Loyola University in microbiology. She was working part-time at the store as a cashier. And, I was running the wine department, and I just kind of started hanging around her cash register. And, we went out a couple of times. We had a favorite little Chinese restaurant, which would let you bring your own wine.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just basically put together a case of wine and leave it there. And we went there often and fell in love with they had 2 kids, and fell in love with them, and really got into Asian food and Chinese food, and we started dining out. And if you're into wine, you're into food. You have to be.
I can't help but think that your tactic is akin to what you had learned as a lifeguard all those years back, watching those astronauts peruse the pool and hang out. Here's a older meathead perusing the cashiers and going, I think I'm going to hang around this particular one right here. So I see you were using what you learned back in the day.
That's about the size of it.
Yeah, no
that's
doubt.
about the size of it. Yeah.
Do you guys
of course,
ever have
most of them were over 60?
Well, of course. Do you guys ever have kids or no?
No.
Any reason?
No, we never had kids. We both somehow chose career. She just retired last year. She pursued her career as a microbiologist and became very prominent in her field. She is one of the great experts on food safety around the world. She was just honored upon her retirement with a lifetime membership in the Institute of Food Technologists. She has published written books, and so we just and in those days, 1974, we married. She kept her maiden name, Mary Tortorello. Now that's common today, but back in those days, that was unheard of. I mean, her parents, my parents, nobody understood what the hell are you doing.
Did you?
I mean, well, I didn't understand it at first. Well, I didn't know you could do it at first. But sure, why not? She was a scientist. She had her name on research papers. Why would she become Goldwyn? She was Tortorello. She had a famous name, and it was respected in her field. And why would she change it? I mean, I wouldn't change my name to hers. So there's a good story here too. God Almighty, these are great stories. When we were keeping separate apartments about 3 blocks apart, and we were shuttling back and forth, and we were having a great old time. And we finally decided, in October leases come due, and we finally decided, well, let's just move in together. Oh no, we can't do that. My parents would never stand for it.
How old are you at this point?
Well, 1974. I was born in 49, so I was 25.
And you're worried about what your parents think if you're living together and you're not married? Or her parents?
Her parents.
Who
her
cares?
Parents, not mine. My parents were in Florida, and so it was her parents. So she had a very conventional Catholic upbringing, and they would not approve of us living together. So what the hell? We just decided. We knew that it was a long-term relationship, and we committed. So we got married, and we got married at this grand old Italian restaurant downtown. Gave her family 2 weeks' notice. Big Italian family in Chicago. On 2 weeks' notice, they managed to assemble 200 plus people for this wedding party.
Wow,
yeah. It was great fun. I didn't know anybody there. In fact, what I ended up doing is tending bar just to meet people. I got behind the bar and started mixing drinks. And people were coming up saying, "Where's the groom?" "Oh, I'm the groom." Good to meet you. And it was funny. Because our religious backgrounds were different, we chose a justice of the peace, a non-religious ceremony, And we found the last living justice of the peace in the state of Illinois. And the day of the wedding, I drove my little Toyota pickup truck that I had traveled around the country in, camping, and that's another story I haven't told. And drove up to Evanston, Illinois, picked him up. And as we're driving towards the restaurant, I said, there's one thing my wife didn't find out from you. What do you charge? And he says, the most frightening words I ever heard in my life. Pay me what you think it's worth.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my God. So I'm rolling over my head. Well, how long is this marriage going to last? And amortized, what was 20 years, amortized over 20 years. Am I going to, and oh my God. So, he when we told him that there was, no religious parts of it or anything, he reached in his drawer and pulled out a black tie that had stenciled on it, "Here come the judge."
Nice.
And, we for time for the ceremony to start, and we can't find him. Finally, we locate him in the downstairs bar, bring him upstairs. He's drunk. He does the ceremony, and basically he just has to say, "I now pronounce you."
Yeah.
I recited some poems. My wife pulled out her guitar, sang a few songs, and then I escorted him downstairs to a cab. I reached in my pocket and pulled out a couple of $100, and he kind of looked at me downtrodden. I gave him another $100, and he said, "Oh, thank you very much." Paid the cab driver, and as I turned around, my dad, who had come up from Florida for the wedding, is there, and he says, "Hey, by the way, don't worry about the justice. I took care of him."
Oh, no.
he double dipped on me.
Wow. Even a judge.
So much for my amortization process.
Yeah. Well, geez, I thought $300 is pretty nice considering
pretty good in
he was
1974.
Yeah, I mean, he was shit faced for the ceremony. I mean, right there.
And he drank on me.
Yeah, you lose professionalism points right there. That's going to come out of your pay where I come
never
from.
found out from my dad how much he paid him.
Yeah, unbelievable. Oh well. All right. So now Meathead's married, and you the thing that when I was doing a little research on you, you founded something called the Beverage Tasting Institute. The article that I was reading on you was back from '91, and at that point you were 10 years into it. So
you did serious research.
Yeah, I was wondering about the Beverage Testing Institute.
Testing, yes.
And
yes.
like, what's the genesis of that, and how long did you run it?
Well, here's where the science stuff comes in. In those days, I was into wine. I was writing about wine for the Chicago Tribune, and the Washington Post, and I became conscious of the fact that I could hurt people. I could make people. I could say, "Wow, this is a great wine," and people would run out and buy it. And I could say, "Man, this wine sucks," and it would hurt their business. And I felt, although I had a good palate, I had won the Chicago Wine Tasting Championship in 1975, which was a series of blind tastings. I was on the USA Wine Tasting team.
That's a thing.
Yeah, there was actually a USA Wine Tasting team. We got our asses kicked by the French at the World Trade Center in New York. Yeah, shocking. But at least I made the team.
Yes, of course.
And so, I started thinking, well, rather than be this bitter dictum, this judge supreme, why don't I assemble a panel of judges and more than one palate? And then I started diving into the research as to how panels work and how you can accurately get data, and compiling olfactory and gustatory data. And I dove deep into the whole science of smell and taste, and so on and so on and so on. So I started a company called Beverage Testing Institute, and we set up a procedure for doing wine, beer, and spirits judging and reviewing based on the very best science, the kind of stuff that, craft will do when they are tasting for quality control, their barbecue sauces or whatever, and food scientists would do. And a lot of the methods we established are still in use, and BTI still exists. Their website is tastings.com. I founded the website, and I built the company, and we published a magazine, which was never really profitable. It got to break even, and I sold the company in 2000, and just decided it was time to reinvent myself, and I switched to solid food from liquid food. And in 2005, I launched. 2000, I sold Beverage Testing Institute and tried to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. And because I had skills as a writer, a photographer, and I had been working on this new thing called the internet, I started working with LA Online in the early 80s, where it was all command, it was all typewritten. There were no images. Type Y for yes, type N for no, type R for red wine, W. And I started working with them we created a wine resource there. And then I met this man named Steve Case. If you don't know his name, Google him, but Steve Case was the founder of AOL. And AOL was, in those days, what Facebook is today. It dominated the internet. In fact, it became so big that they bought Time Inc., Time Magazine, yep. Time Life magazines, Life magazine, all the books and everything. It wasn't the other way around. They didn't buy AOL. AOL bought them.
Yes.
They were that big. And Steve Case was just starting out. And I went down to Vienna. It was pronounced Vienna, not Vienna. Vienna, Virginia. And we drank wine in his office. And he asked me to run his food and drink section. Which was fun. I brought Julia Child online, her first time online, and had a whole 9 years running that and made pretty good money for it. I'm jumping all around. Anybody who's trying to keep a chronology here is lost. But these are fun stories. There's so many backstories too. We can go on for hours.
Were there also like spirit contest or spirit things that you were involved in or had created? These are things you created, right?
Yeah. We created the World Wine Championships, the World Beer Championships, and the World Spirits Championships.
Wow.
Are
any of them in operation still today?
Yeah, I think so. They were, important judgings and award systems and recognition. And wineries would pay us. Distilleries would pay us. The best example is there was this new vodka that nobody had ever heard of that we did a vodka judging, and they came in first. And when we gave them our platinum medal, there was no such thing as a platinum medal until we invented it. We gave them the platinum medal, and they immediately ran out and bought full-page ads in the Wall Street Journal, and that's how Grey Goose became a thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. They put Grey Goose on the map, huh?
We put Grey Goose on the map, and many other wineries and breweries, and they took their awards and ran with it. But Grey Goose was the best example. I mean, like 2 weeks after the award, they were all over.
Where do the ebbs and flows happen to get to the beginnings of what Amazing Ribs is now?
Well, okay, so Beverage Testing Institute got to break even, but I never could get it over the top. The Wine Spectator was dominant in the field. All the ad money went to them, and I made the tactical mistake of launching a magazine for Beverage Testing Institute, and it had no advertising. It was advertising free. I was trying to compete with Robert Parker, and various things. We were a glossy magazine, so we were competing with the Wine Spectator, but we had no advertising, so we were competing with Robert Parker, which was a newsletter, and nobody could figure out which we were. And we just never could get it over the top. I sold the company. The guys who bought it, still, I don't think it's really making a lot of money. And I walked away, and I just decided, okay, well, this internet thing is starting to happen. It's 1990. And I got some experience. I've been working on AOL. I did LA Online. Let's see if I can turn this into something. And I learned HTML, and I started building websites. I could write, I could photograph, and I could build websites. That's a skill set.
Yeah, marketable.
And I did websites for small businesses, and to demonstrate my skills, I built a website for myself called AmazingRibs.com. And it was it had barbecue. It was ribs. It had one recipe. It had what is on our website today, last meal ribs. And it was the rest. I came to that because I loved barbecue, and my neighbor, who was a butcher, and I were jawing over the fence and challenged each other to a rib cook-off. And this is the year 2004, I think, yeah. And so I immediately ran and looked, and there was just nothing on Amazon, which was selling only books at the time. I couldn't find anything on Amazon, any books about barbecue and grilling. And so I figured, okay, I'm going to launch a website and essentially crowdsource it and write a book about barbecue. And I named it Amazing Ribs because in those days there was no, I don't know if Google existed, but there was no real search engines. And Yahoo was the dominant search engine in those days. And they listed everything alphabetically. So Amazing Ribs starts with an A.
Yep.
So we started with a ribs recipe, and then we did pulled pork and brisket and chicken, and and on and on and on. We now have 3,000 pages of recipes, product reviews, technique, science, myth busting, and our Pitmaster Club, which is a community. 27 million page views a month. Wow. By far, bigger than Kingsford, bigger than Weber, bigger than all of them. And it just started. And Google fell in love with us early because we were the only one in the game. Nobody had ever heard of reverse sear until we popularized it. We didn't invent it, but we popularized it. Nobody ever heard of searing a steak on top of a charcoal chimney until we popularized it. People still believe it's ridiculous. I get more crap on YouTube from people who don't get it. YouTube's such a cesspool.
What year do you realize that you are onto something? You were building to kind of stand out or supplement something that you were missing. But what year do you realize you can see growth? It's organic. People are searching you out for information.
Well, in 2004 or so when I launched it, it was a labor of love, but it was also a portfolio. I was demonstrating that I could build websites. And I was having fun with it. And I was spending way too much time on it. And I wasn't getting a lot of clients. And all of a sudden, traffic's building. And we added advertising and affiliate relationship with Amazon. And by 2010, I could make a living at it. Wasn't a good living, but it was enough to me to say, screw this freelancing. Let's put all our energy into AmazingRibs.com. And, a couple of years later, I hired Max Good. Max. He's showed up on your show regularly. Max lives nearby. He had a barbecue sauce he was flogging. And I thought it would be useful for our website if we had product reviews. I was doing some of them, but I wasn't doing them well. And I said, well, you want to be our product review maestro? And he said, yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Since then, you've continued to grow. You have fostered quite a small to medium-sized business, small business, I guess. But I mean, still, I can't imagine when you'd started it, you thought you'd have as many commissioned folks and employees that you were paying as you do here in 2020. I mean, you had more in the heyday a couple years ago.
No, and in fact, when I sold the Beverage Testing Institute, there were a lot of lessons I learned. If you don't, I listened to people interviewed, like, movie stars, athletes, business experts, and people ask them, if you had to do it over again, would you do anything different? What would you do differently? And they'd say, I wouldn't do anything different. And I just slap my forehead. I go, oh my God, you asshole. You haven't learned anything. There are so many things I would do differently. There were so many things that I have learned that I did wrong. Terribly. I was a lousy manager at BTI. I didn't treat my people well. I do now. But I swore when I sold it I would never have employees again, because I just got tired of refereeing fights between people and making bad hires and then having to teach idiots how to do their job. But I've learned some lessons, and I've got a good crew that's working with me now, not for me. They're teammates. They're not employees. And that's not just, business mumbo jumbo. That's the way this business operates. And we get stuff done. And we're having fun. We're just this short of being where I'd like to be. We have 16,000. The internet is very different today. When I first launched AmazingRibs.com, you could make a living from advertising. Not a lot, but you can't now. The advertising cost per thousand, CPMs, is way down. The rates are low. And there's just, supply and demand. There's so many different places people can advertise. If you think you're a premier site and you want to raise your rates, nobody's going to come to you. There's just unlimited supply, particularly a barbecue. There's just hundreds of daddy bloggers out there who are accountants, lawyers, computer programmers in the daytime, and they run a barbecue website in the evening.
Yep.
And they get some advertising, they attract traffic, and I have to compete with them. And it's okay. I like them. A lot of them are good people, and they do some good stuff. But it's the problem of the hooker who complains it's hard to make a living when there are so many people giving it away.
Yeah, that's tough to compete with. So you're close to where you want to be. You've also mentioned from time to time on the show that you're also entertaining offers. So are you actively selling AmazingRibs.com?
We are. And in fact, there's a connection. One of your favorite people, Doug Scheiding.
Yes.
Doug is a business broker.
Yes.
And Doug is representing me.
Really?
I am actively pursuing the sale of the company. I want to team up with a company who is a specialty company in the internet, who has multiple website properties, who has expertise in technology, expertise in design, who has managers. I spend way too much time on bookkeeping and managing the finances. I need to get that off my back. You can do the management part of my job in 10, 12 hours a week, but it's 10, 12 hours I need back. So we're actively looking for a partner, someone to come in and buy the company, and incidentally give me a lot of money, and at the same time help us grow, help us reach our goals, help us get better. There's so many things we would love. I'd love to do more about campfire cooking, tandoori cooking, more product reviews, and just a bazillion things. Well, Greg, you're always bugging me. In Best of Nature, when's your book coming out? It was due out last spring. And then I pushed it back to spring 21, and now it's pushed back to spring 22.
And now it's pushed back to spring 3078.
Yeah. I'd like to get this goddamn book finished, Yeah. It's a good book. I've got a lot of it done. But I need to finish it, and it's just really hard. And we're doing some really creative stuff. we've just published 3 small ebooks. They're just Kindle books, ebooks, 150 pages that contain everything we know about ribs, or everything we know about chicken, everything we know about sous vide Q. Those are the 3, and they sell for $3.99 on Amazon, and they're selling. I mean, we just launched the chicken one this week. And by the way, if anybody's listening, it's free on Amazon today and tomorrow. Just go to Amazon. It's called Chicken Made Easy by Meathead. And I worked with Bridget Vins on it. And it's a good book on chicken. But, we're doing creative stuff. We're doing stuff that nobody's ever done before. Everything I've done in my career is stuff nobody's ever done before.
Meathead, you have said it all. You've done it all. I mean, we have learned stories about you this evening. I thought I knew everything about you, and here we have 5 or 6 new stories that I am now completely...
Oh, I've barely touched the surface.
Barely scratching the surface.
Anybody's listening out there with insomnia, I can put you to sleep. I can tell stories all night long.
The good news
got
is,
stories. I mean, me and Ned Shearhorn catching lobsters off the coast of Florida. Oh my God, those were great lobsters. What's that? What are you showing me? Your ring?
No, I was tightening up a bolt on my microphone. But the good news is this: whenever things calm down and get back to order, and the middle daughter needs to go back to Chicago for her modeling thing over there at the Merchandise Mart, we will get together and. You will regale me with new sets of stories, and
I need to hear your story.
I have no
would
stories.
Like to ask this favor.
Yeah.
Can we reconvene at a date sometime in the future where I can interview you and ask your story? If I know how to interview.
Sure.
I mean, I studied Studs Terkel. I'm a journalism major. You did a great job. You asked all the right questions. You followed the sequence. I wandered off topic many times. You reeled me in. Let me do the same thing for you.
I'm happy to do it. Of course.
Let's set a date.
All right, we'll set a date.
Let's turn the table.
All right, we'll hook it up offline, and you can do
turn
me.
the table.
That's right. In the meantime, you can find Meathead over at AmazingRibs.com, of course, on social media, begrudgingly, of course, and on the second Tuesday of the month right here on this show. Meathead, really appreciate doing this. And most importantly, the fact that we have been together, and
Yes.
you're one of the few, Meathead, that I have both had an online and an in-person relationship, and more than one occasion, by the way, where we can get together like this and share friendship and share like-minded and also some competing ideas. Your friendship and your contributions to the show, you will never know the amount of appreciation that I have for it. And I thank whatever God there is for you each and every day. And I can't wait to continue to do this for as long as it happens.
Well, I have to bounce it all right back at you. You know, I'm thinking as we're getting ready to say goodbyes, I want to say something about our relationship. Oh, he just said that. I want to say thank you about meeting you in person. Oh, he just said that. I feel so much the same way, Greg. I mean, it is. It has been fun. I don't know. We're 10, 12 years into this.
Oh yeah.
I barely missed a month, or two. I look forward to it. I think you're a real stalwart in the barbecue community. I don't know where the barbecue community would be without you. And I just look forward to talking to you. And I get feedback from the Centralites and hear from them. And let's hope we both motor on for many years together.
All right, let's do it. Meathead, always appreciate it. Thank you so much. There he is, Meathead, right there, doing the origin story. And wow, I got to tell you, that was thoroughly enjoyable. And we've learned new stuff from Meathead, which I can't believe. This guy is palling around with astronauts as they are searching out tail at the pool, at the hotel that they own. They all bought in case you didn't hear that part of it. Wow. All right, we're more or less right on time, actually. So we got AJ Lujan coming up out of the break. His dad, Anthony, will also be around to keep it legal. I'll talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue. A curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies will get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything there has been Pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself, from the award-winning rubs and sauces to the American-made grills and smokers. Big Papa's has everything you need to be a better outdoor cook. Now, if you're looking for the rubs and seasonings, they got 13 perfectly balanced flavors that include Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Little Louis Seasoned Salt, Double Secret State, Desert Gold, just to name a few, and there's more, obviously. There's 13. If you're looking for a great new sauce, if you're sick of what is already out there, or you're looking for something new, or you're looking for a great base sauce that you can start to tweak, Big Papa's is also the proud owner of Granny's Barbecue Sauce, which is an award-winning sauce all on its own. So you don't have to tweak it if you don't want, but if you would like to tweak it, perfectly your preference. Aside from the premium selection of rubs and sauces, they got the cookers. If you're in the market for a versatile cooker that's easy to use, how about that Mac 2-star General pellet cooker that's been completely revised? Not a fan of pellet smokers? All right. Take a look at the old Hickory Ace BP, the only charcoal smoker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer. Not sure of what grill you need? Give him a call. Ask questions. 877-828-0727. Again, that's 877-828-0727, or shop their website at bigpapasmokers.com, BIGPOPPA smokers.com. Where is the next generation of competition cooker coming from? We're going to meet him coming up next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Celebrating over 10 years of prolific and unparalleled live fire barbecue and grilling talk. And yes, it's still being done from Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, currently available in 2 sizes, but there will be a 3rd one coming. A host of accessories as well. Whether you're a beginner or professional, definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com. Tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Unforeseen, I have to start with this.
A Barbecue Central Show exclusive news update.
Now, I didn't have a update at the top of the hour, although I have had updates in this regard over the last couple weeks. I do have a cat piss update. Literally. 2 minutes ago, my wife just came down in between the break between Meathead here in Family Lujan, that I'll bring up here in just a second. But the Snickers, the cat, was just up in the kitchen and pissed all over the kitchen. All that work out the window. We were going into week 2 of no cat piss. I purposely held out the cat piss update, and now I'm forced to give you a cat piss update. I can't believe it. I don't know what we're going to do with this cat. This cat is on the outs, I can say that. Often I have asked on this show from time to time where the next generation of competitive cook is coming from, and how old are they really? Last year, I introduced you to SCA sensation Angel Todd, who was 16 at the time. She won an SCA event right here in Cleveland. Also, as she won that event, earned herself a golden ticket to the World Championships in Fort Worth, where she did end up finishing mid-pack. Tonight, I introduce you to an even younger steak prodigy, earning many calls in the events that he has cooked in. He is joining me tonight to talk about his steak cooking process, how he got into it. Sitting in is his dad as well. Let's hit the hotline and welcome in first-timer to the show, AJ Lujan, and second-timer to the show and co-host of the Pitmasters podcast, the Anthony Lujan. Gents, appreciate you taking time this evening. Hopefully you enjoyed the balance of the Meathead interview. AJ, hopefully you learned about the icon that is AmazingRibs.com and the founder, Meathead. Are you familiar, AJ, with AmazingRibs.com? Is that a website that the kids hit up for all their live fire info? I don't have you guys.
Yep.
Hello? You there?
Hello?
Okay, there we go.
There.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Is that a website that you're hitting, AJ?
No, I've never heard of it.
You've never heard of the most heavily trafficked barbecue and grilling website ever on the face of the earth?
Nope.
Oh, man. Well, what kind of a kid are you raising over there, Anthony? My goodness. I figured that was like something you would have saved in the bookmarks, and every day you have to go back through and start going through the 3,000 pages of what Meathead has.
Man, I'm just his sponsor. I just give him the stuff that he needs to do. He just shows up, cooks, and goes home, bro.
That's right. No doubt. So before we get into the steak hawk, Anthony, let me ask you something a little off the board. I'm hearing rumblings, and this is why I'm asking to confirm, that you and this other guy, Rusty Monson, do the show, and it's really the only time that you guys actually talk. Perhaps there might be some growing disdain between you guys as well. How do you please to these charges?
Man, we actually recorded earlier tonight, and we covered that. Actually, Rusty and I were actually good friends. We get together, we barbecue, we watch football, you know.
All right. Thank God. Well, I got to tell you, there's internet scuttlebutt that's going on,
right?
And I figured,
There
hey,
is, for sure.
I got 50% that's coming on right now. I got the other 50% in 2 weeks, so we'll, of course, have to ask him for his opinion. But you're saying right now, on October 13th, everything is good?
As of now, yes.
All right. Very good. All right. So, AJ, let's talk about, before the steak talk, pardon me, you're 15, as I had mentioned, so that makes you, is that a freshman in high school?
Yes,
I'm a
freshman.
How has 2020 and coronavirus specifically affected you? We talk about it a lot here on this show with folks that are within the live fire industry. Competitors aren't competing as much, or at least, you know, March, April, May, when things were really dialed back. Businesses are going out of business. It's hard to eat in a restaurant. How has the coronavirus affected you specifically?
It's obviously made school a little bit harder. I'm doing online. It's can't really go out that much, hang out with friends, family. Makes it harder to go out and eat, obviously. So everyone's just at home ordering and cooking their own dinner.
Have you noticed that a lot of your mates are doing a lot of home eating, and they're like, AJ, this blows because guess what? I just figured out that mom and dad are terrible cooks, and that's why we go out to eat all the time.
Yeah.
It's probably cool to have a dad that knows how to cook pretty awesomely, I guess.
Yeah, it is awesome.
No doubt. All right, so let's talk about competitive steak here, AJ. I don't know how or where kids get introduced like yourself. As I had mentioned last year, I had a lady by the name of Angel Todd on, who was only 1 year your senior at that point. How are you even introduced to SCA?
I went to competitions with my dad and just watched him cook, and then he asked me if I wanted to compete, and I said, sure, I'll give it a shot.
Is it just something you're looking at and saying it's not that technical? We're not splitting atoms here. It looks, from a process, fairly simple, and it's something that you can handle, and you think you could be successful at it, or were you just excited to just give it a try?
I was excited to give it a try, but it also looked decently easy just to cook a steak. So I was like, I'll give it a shot.
Have you been to the barbecue competitions that your dad does as well?
Yep.
Now, how would you compare those? Are you as or at all interested in partaking in a competition barbecue?
No, I'm not really interested in that. That seems like a lot more work to do.
You got to be like really rich to do that too. You got to have a camper and Wagyu beef and all that other stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So steak is a little bit more your role, is what I'm understanding. So talk to me a little bit about those first couple steak cook-offs. What kind of a process do you have in place? Who are you leaning on for guidance, and what kind of practice are you getting in before you hit that first contest?
Usually for the practice, we 2 or 1 day before we cook a steak and see if we want to use anything kind of new or stick to the same. And when I go to the competitions, I just kind of go and do it. And I have my dad help me sometimes, not all the time though.
How many competitions are you in right now?
He's done 7.
Wow. All right. And are they all this year, or you have it over the course of the last, over between 19 and 20?
Last year and this year?
He did 1 last year, and then he did the Utah State Championship point series.
Oh,
here.
nice. All right. So balance are here in 2020. So you got all the experience pretty much right now. So what's your process? We had kind of jokingly said up front that you're well adept at smacking your dad around at these competitions. So what's it like from a process? You get on site and take it from there.
What do you get?
Just give me start to finish. What are you doing?
Start to finish, yeah.
How I prepare the steak?
Yeah, just steak selection, everything.
Well, at the beginning when you pick the steak, I usually just look for the good spinalis and good marbling on the spinalis. And then I trim that steak. And then after that, I usually season it with one seasoning. And then after that, I do the rest. Then I tie it up and then wait for the cooking to begin.
Are you going to share with us your top secret steak rubs, or is that going to cost me, or what?
Well,
charge him.
Shut up, Anthony. Shut up. Go ahead.
I don't know our seasonings. My dad puts those together, and I just don't know the names.
Oh,
so Greg, so I come from a manufacturing background, so I actually created him kind of a standard work scenario on literally I hand him a piece of paper and he follows it step by step. In barbecue, consistency is number one, right? You have hundreds of guests, they say consistency is number one. So I have all those rubs lined up. I'll tell you what they are. I have no problem, but they're just literally bottles 1 through 6. So he just goes down each bottle, each step. And then he has a guideline. I can actually pull it up. This is his guideline that he follows to a T.
Look at that.
He writes his numbers in there, and he just follows this guideline solid every single time. And that's why I think he's a better cook than I am. But let's break it down. I'll just throw it out there. We're using Killer Hogs, the barbecue rub, barbecue hot, the steak rub, Blues Hogs Bold and Beefy, all queued up steak shake. And then we finish with the Boar's Night Out White Lightning. Flavor.
Are the amounts you're going a light to medium coat of both, or are you using tablespoons of this and tablespoons of that and putting it in a separate shaker to just launch all over the top of the steak? How does that break? That's a lot of. I don't want to get all crazy here, but when I'm doing steak at home, not a competition. I'll go either Pancho and Lefty's original steak seasoning, or if I'm getting really crazy, I'll do that and some double secret steak rub from Big Papa Smokers, but that's it. I don't have 6 rubs and the finishing dust that I'm putting on. So, how much of each are you doing?
So some are kind of mixed together, and some we put on a little thicker, and ones with salt, heavy salt. Just we put on a medium to light coat, so it doesn't really overpower it too much.
Will the amount of seasoning you put on adjust with how thick the steaks are? For instance, maybe you're going in with a idea that I'm assuming the steaks are going to be 1.25 inches, but if I get them and they're towards 1.5 inches, I'll have to adjust more meat, more seasoning, or if they're skinnier than 1.25 inches, you're going to draw some back because you don't want to, as you said, overpower.
Yeah, if they're bigger, then we put a little bit more. Smaller, put medium to light, so it just evens everything out.
All right, so you go ahead and rub those steaks up, and are you looking to have them sweat out for a certain period of time before you start the cooking?
Yeah, usually 30 minutes to let
All right.
it soak, like hold that seasoning.
And then are you getting a fire going at that point as well?
Yeah. My dad is usually starting the coals.
All right. What kind of coals are you into? Are you a fuel teller? You use B&B?
No way, man. We're just
No?
Kingsford, keeping it OG.
Really? You use Kingsford?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Professional grade.
Yeah. All right. What kind of grill are you using, AJ?
The PK.
Is that the PK original one or the PK 360?
Original.
Yeah, all
Like
right.
I said, Greg, he doesn't even know what he's using. He shows up, cooks, and bounces, bro.
All
Kicks my ass every time.
All right, so grill's ready to go. I assume, again, I'm assuming because I've only seen it done a couple times, but I assume you're taking that pistol thermometer and shooting the grates. You're probably using grill grates. Are you looking for a temperature on the rail there before you start cooking?
Yeah, we usually shoot it, and we want it to be at least
500.
500.
At least 500, or you want to be higher than 500?
500, and if it's too high, we turn it down because we don't want it to burn it and make it look bad.
All right, so talk to me on your flip times. Steak goes down. Do you do any of that non-stick spray, like right before you put it on the grates? Yeah, a little bit of that, and then
And if it's a little hotter than usual, I usually turn down the time, but usually I stick to like how long? I don't know how long I usually keep it.
What's the sheet say?
Exactly. 120 is our starting point. A minute 20 before each twist.
Okay, and then once you get through the fourth 120, you're also temping quite a bit at that point, I would imagine, so to figure out if you're going to keep it on or if you're going to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And usually after like we get the good grill marks, we put it up on like a little rack to let it, and we have a little temperature that tells us when it's done.
So when that steak comes off, then there's also a hold on. Sorry. There's also a second steak that you have picked out through that selection. Are you deciding on that first steak, hey, this one is good enough, this is the one we'll turn in, or do you have to cook both in order to make that ultimate determination?
I like to cook both just in case like the first one comes out bad, then I have like another one to turn to, but usually the first one is try to get this one perfect because it's the one I want.
How much time in between when that first one would finish to when you would start cooking that second one? I would imagine you want them pretty tight so there's not a lot of gap and cool down.
Yeah, when we get the fourth, like flip over on the first one and put it up on the grate is usually when I start cooking the second one. So like right after the first one.
Anything special that you're doing when you're turning them in? You dance a little butter over them, or I know you said there was some kind of a finishing dust or something like that. Anything else crazy?
Yeah, so we're heating up the butter and we spread that on it, and then just some finishing dust, and then that's it.
Do you use a Kerrygold or some kind of organic or all cow butter or anything like that? Anything fancy?
Nope, just butter from the
Land
store.
O'Lakes. Yeah. All right. All right. So then you run it in, and then away you go. Now, it's out of your hands at that point. Judges take it. They're going through whatever their process is. You're sitting back there talking smack to everybody, I would imagine, because you've been successful. But, if you could remember all the way back to the first time you heard so it's a ticket, right? I mean, they call a number out. You look at your number. When you hear those numbers called out the first time where you're walking the stage now, what kind of a charge does that put into a 15-year-old? No big deal. Playing Black Ops on the Xbox is better. Like, where does that rate?
I usually just get really nervous because I don't like walking up in a crowd of people. But then I also get excited because money.
Yeah, so you don't like walking up in front of a crowd of people because you're 15 and you don't have the in-your-face gene yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But you do have the he does have the I like money gene, though, which everybody loves, right? We love money. What has your dad helped you with the most in this? I mean, certainly we have fun talking about how you will finish ahead of him here and there, but he's obviously been a pretty big influence in the process and helping you kind of guide down the right path.
He's the one that helped me get started, and obviously he taught me how to actually cook and prepare it. So he's definitely a big help.
Anthony, when you watch AJ cook and you hear his name, I mean, I would imagine, look, I'm a father of 3 daughters. None of them have any interest in competing. I probably have less interest in competing than they do, and they have none. But if we were into it, I would almost think that it's a weird position because certainly you want to win. I mean, you're there to win and take all the money that you can, but then your kid is also there, and any good parent wants the best for their kid. So I'm wondering, do you get more satisfaction out of you executing a good cook and you're being recognized for it and you're walking the stage, or do you get more satisfaction out of seeing AJ execute a cook and getting recognized for it and getting to walk the stage?
I get more excited when AJ wins. Seeing him across that stage and be able to take his photo ops and everything like that. What it does is it actually drives him a little bit more, wants to make him be a little bit more competitive, makes him want to go up there and chase that golden ticket, be able to get down to Texas. You know, he really is accelerating at this, and I'm happy to take the back seat anytime to him. Of course, I'm chasing my ticket too, but if he gets there before I do, I'll be super stoked.
Yeah, you'll be second in command on that grill if you don't get the golden ticket. Yeah,
exactly.
All right, AJ, where are you going to be competing at next?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. When is that coming up?
Saturday.
Oh, that's this weekend.
Yes.
Oh well. Yeah. Thank goodness you showed up here because AJ, I know you've been a longtime fan. I mean, the show's been around almost as long as you have been around. And anybody that shows up on a Tuesday that competes the following week wins the event. So sorry, everybody else, but AJ is going to be in town, so he's going to win because he did the show. Anthony will probably come in second. So it's going to be fun times in Las Vegas for a myriad of reasons. And that's it. Anthony, anything you want to promo before I turn you guys loose tonight?
Oh, no, man. We just make sure you tune into the Pitmasters podcast weekly. That's Thursday, every Thursday, I should say. This week we have Amanda McGarth coming up talking about ThermoWorks and launching some new products on there. So Make sure you tune into that because there are some sweet products coming out this week.
All right, AJ, appreciate you making time for the show this evening. Continued success on the competition stake trail, and I'd wish you good luck in Las Vegas, but you're not going to need it because you're going to be a winner. So once you take that one down, we'll get you back on here and recap it here soon enough.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, guys, there they are. The Luhans, they are competitive. They are family. They are a competitive family doing the steak cook stuff, and we certainly appreciate them coming on this evening and helping me finish it out. All right, let's see where we're at. Got this, and we'll close up shop. Green Mountain Grills. Oh, come on. Rusty Monson uses Green Mountain Grills to cook his chicken. They can also cook things other than chicken if you want. Choice Line, Prime Line. Choice Line will give you not the tech, but it'll save you some cash. If you want tech like 2 instant read or 2 internal meat probes, if you want peek-in windows on the cooking chamber and pellet hopper, if you want Wi-Fi technology, app connectivity, you're going to want to bone out for the Prime Line. Also get you a little bit sturdier of a chassis build. You get the rack underneath the wheels, storage rack there for your pellets and wood and other stuff. Great stuff. It is great stuff. You can go to greenmountaingrills.com and check out the selection, then find a dealer near you. They do sell through dealers, so you have to go there and check them out. They'll also answer all your questions that you have there on the floor. You can buy a lot of accessories at their dealers, almost like a one-stop shop there. So go to greenmountaingrills.com and do all your research, and then ask your dealer from there. Green Mountain Grills. Don't forget the pizza oven insert with the Jim Boom or the Daniel Boone. Regardless of if you get the choice or the Prime, it fits in both. We are back to wrap it up right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs. injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rempe.
Hey, welcome back. This portion is being brought to you by Smithfield. Throughout this season of grilling and barbecue, you can head on over to smithfield.com for recipes and tips and tricks from world champ pitmasters like Chris Lilly, Darren Worth, Ernest Cervantes, and Childs Cridlin. With mouth-watering flavor and no artificial ingredients. Smithfield fresh pork, some of the best the pork money can buy. Trusted by world champion pitmasters for use in competitions and at home. Also, brought to you by The Smoke Sheet, a weekly newsletter that's free and keeps you in the know on everything happening in the barbecue world, including top news, events, recipes, and more. Head on over to bbqnewsletter.com. Again, that's bbqnewsletter.com, a great all-in-one resource covering the live fire industry. All right. How about that? Anthony Lujan, his son AJ. AJ is a competitive cook. He's 15. He's got 7 under the belt, and he is headed to Vegas this coming weekend to get after it. Searching for that golden ticket. And as Anthony said, he's also searching for his golden ticket. Who do you bet on? If Anthony gets a golden ticket and AJ gets a golden ticket, and they have to compete at each other or against each other at the World Championships in Fort Worth, who votes for who? Who wants to see who wins at the national championship? That's big time. We'll see how it plays out. All the way back in the first hour and some of the second hour, Meathead from AmazingRibs.com's origin story. Tremendous stories. Unbelievable. If you missed it, if you're just tuning in, podcast will be up in about an hour from now. For the first hour, second hour on Thursday. We have a new best of coming up on Friday as well, episode 146. You have to be subscribed to the podcast for that. So I appreciate Meathead just laying it out like that. Totally enjoy those stories. And then closing it out, AJ Lujan coming on, 15 years old. Having success on the competition steak trail right now. Following the SOP sheet that Anthony made for him, his dad. And is seeing a lot of success. And as Anthony said, I was going to ask him, well, why don't you follow that sheet, Anthony? No reason to rub it in. The kid is following the sheet and winning. The man is not. He is not,
Andrew, you are
not following that sheet. Anyway, good luck to those guys as they head out to Las Vegas. Be safe and good luck, although you won't need it. Show karma attaches. Next week, Steven Reichlin's origin story and Robin Lindar's origin story. And we'll see what else is on tap. We'll see also if I have a cat who's decided to piss in the kitchen. I'll be addressing that here in about 3 minutes. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
This is Jimmy Burns from Melbourne, Ohio, and you're listening to Barbecue Central.